Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for everyone for coming here today. I'm kind of excited to share this with everybody. I hope that people do get a benefit from this. It's just my little story here on how things actually came to what they are today. I'm going to go through this one right here just to read it to you guys because I just want to get something clear right in the beginning. A few things before we get started. In this application, I'll be sharing techniques to establish a sustainable real estate business using the IMS. As I try to describe and explain my patterns of habit, obedience, and commitment, I want you to know that you probably already know most of this stuff. Some of you have been in the business for years, and some have been in the business for only a few months. By all means, I am not trying to reinvent the wheel or tell you how to run your business. You are in full control of that. As there are many factors involved when establishing a real estate career, there is an enormous amount of differences from one person to another and what their specific situation looks like. However, there is one very common similarity between all of us here today. We all have access to the IMS to run our businesses. This is my personal experience using the IMS and only the IMS to start and maintain my business, my real estate career in Central Florida. So I guess I'll start off really quick. I didn't want to get too much into my background. It may skew your judgment about me if I shared everything with you. But really quick, my past experience was in warehouse management. I actually managed multiple warehouses. I started as a warehouse worker, went to a warehouse leader, went to a warehouse manager, then a district manager, then the director of operations. And what the warehouses did is they worked for e-commerce. So a lot of it was entwined with Amazon.com, so on and so forth. There was like probably, I think, 9 or 10 different warehouses through the United States that I would travel to and set up the logistics and the management. So I had warehouse management background. I also worked through in multiple trades and construction in and out of my careers. I've done just about everything. The only thing I don't like too much is electricity. I'll keep that to the professionals even nowadays. I'm using professionals more now as I'm only 41, but as I'm getting older, I'd rather pay someone to do it. But I do have knowledge there. So in 2016, I lived in Pendleton, Indiana. I lived there for about 13 years. I'm originally from Pennsylvania, and I moved to Florida in August of 2016. And keep in mind, as I go through these things, I only really visited Florida 2 to 3 times in my entire life, and that was when I was a kid. I have no friends or acquaintances here. I have one aunt that lives here. I think she's 82, so that's pretty much my sphere of influence for Florida, was an 82-year-old aunt. And I had no clue where or what the towns were. I've heard of Orlando, but I haven't heard of all the surrounding towns. There's, I think, 17 of them. Had no clue where they were or what they were about. And I didn't know the differences. And most of all, I had no sales experience whatsoever. As I mentioned, I worked in a warehouse. I did labor work. I did management work, but I never sold anything in my life. So essentially what I was doing from my past business to getting into real estate, moving to Florida, I was kind of just switching from managing product to managing people, to keeping track of people. So like, I kind of kept this in my mind too, because we all take what we do in the past and put it into what we do into the future. And a big part that I did was, just like working in warehouses, if you do not have control of your inventory, you will not likely succeed. If you do not have your database organized or keep track of your inventory, money goes out the door. So essentially, I just mentally switched from keeping track of products to keeping track of people, which that's what the IMS does for me. So I'm going to go through the first 3 years, but I'm not going to do every single line. You guys can have access to this later on. Keep focus on the bottom parts because I still do these 3 things today. On the top parts here, when I first came here, I had to learn, I had to train myself, I had to set everything up, I had to develop a comfort level. But even when I first started, and I'm going to concentrate on this as it evolves, is I try to meet as many people as possible to set appointments to show homes. And I have to be honest with you, my first year, I didn't ask if you were pre-approved. I didn't ask if you bought before. I hardly asked any questions whatsoever. If I saw that there was an interest and they wanted to check out the inside of a house, I got in the car and I showed it to them. which I'll share where that kind of bit me in the butt a little bit. But I'm always ready. I'm always ready to take a lead opportunity. They're on 24/7. My first year, I did commit 5 to 6 days a week making phone calls, and I typically did it between 8:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Then I take a break during the day, whether I had showings or grass to cut or house stuff, and then I get back on at 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. And I also try to institute a nap in between there because real estate, the nature of the business calls after 6 o'clock. So it's hard to be up in the morning doing that and doing that in the evening and not have a nap. And last but not least, I always work my hot list to zero every day. So just a quick snapshot of the first year. This is kind of what my first year looked like using the IMS. I took in a total of 514 leads. I established 130 prospects. And as we all know, if you don't know, prospects are people that have corresponded with you in one way or another. I actually established 27 actual clients. And when I say clients, that means people I went on showings with, people that I've wrote purchase offers with, and people that I've done listing agreements with, or people that I have a solid commitment that I am their guy. And then in the interim of that first year using the IMS, I did 1 to 2 closings a month. I had some months that were 3 to 4, which estimated for my first year, 2.4 million in sales, which in this business, I always want more. So like even that number, I was very grateful for it. I just felt it should be more, but it's coming. I learned very quickly in this process in real estate in my first year that if you call and you make contact, that results to showings. And then when you go on showings, you search, you find a home, you write a contract. And when you write a contract, you manage that process, execute it, and then you close, and then you get paid. So that's the first snapshot of the first year. My second year was pretty similar, but I went on many showings. I'm starting to familiarize myself with the areas. I got a few closings under my belt. I was more confident to write. Just a little side note, when my first year, I didn't know how to write a contract. They did teach in school. And I remember calling Jeff and asking him to walk me through it. And that's very different with the Florida, same principles, but very different from Florida to Indiana. And I remember Jeff saying to me, he's like, didn't you learn anything in school? I'm like, yeah, I did. But we all know that there's a big difference between sitting in school and doing it. Sitting in school and hearing it and then actually doing it. So I had to submerge myself into it to actually do it. And then in my second year, I really made the IMS the nucleus of my business. Things come out, things come in, things go out. I come home. The IMS was what I focused on. I'm searching. I'm still looking for new process territories. And these bottom ones, like I mentioned before, are still the same. I still meet as many people as possible. I set up appointments to show homes. I'm starting to get a little bit more selective, but I've wasted a lot of time, but I still have this today that if you can get a meeting face to face and get out and shake their hand, you're that much closer to writing a contract or having a client that you'll get a commission from in the future. It goes way beyond text message, emails, and phone calls. That's just my perception. I'm always available. And in the second year, because I was building my IMS, I kind of dumbed it down from 5 to 6 days to 3 to 4 days a week in the morning and the evenings. And then I also work my hot list every day, no exceptions. I want that back down to 0. And last but not least, my third year here, I got very familiar with things. I showed hundreds and hundreds of homes. Now I'm very familiar. So now when I'm having conversations with people, I know where they're talking about. And sometimes even if I don't, if I mention a Walmart or a 7-Eleven, is it by there? And 9 out of 10 times they'll say, yeah, by the 7-Eleven. Oh, I know where you mean. Don't really have a clue, but I'm sure I passed it before. I'm starting to work referrals, past clients, and then making so many phone calls to people. You cross investors, those are fun because those are 3 to 4 to 8 sales, maybe in a 6-month period. Very nice. I got my solid habit with the IMS. And my third year, I started to network. I was always one where I just wanted to sit in here and use the IMS. I started networking with other realtors, and I picked up a lot of things along the way. Again, meeting people face to face and learning different things. To me, it's very important to get face to face with people. I know our world's changing a little bit, so I'm going to have to shift gears. And then the third year, I have to say, I become much more selective when scheduling appointments to meet in person. I definitely dig a little bit deeper in the conversations, even if they want to see it right away. I usually save the finance questions towards the end. You know, it goes something like, "Hey, you just wanted to just see if maybe you've have you spoke to a lender or a bank?" Just to dig in a little bit, because having those conversations, sometimes it's not good to get in the car. It's better to put the horse in front of the wagon. So my third year, much more selective, always still available, still 2 to 3 days a week, mostly in the mornings now. In the afternoons, they're pretty filled with other activities. And of course, I work the hot list of zero and my client update every day. Work those because that's new juice that's starting to heat up. So as going through the 3 years, there's some really essential tools or items that I felt that was necessary to have while I was doing real estate. And the first one being is managing my schedule. When you've got 1 to 2 deals, it's okay. You could probably cram everything into your brain and get it done. But once you get 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 deals at one time, it gets really difficult to juggle 12, 13 balls at one time. So I started using a book planner, and that has worked fabulous for me. Not only did it make me more organized, but it made me more comfortable. A private place to work. That's super, super, super important. I can't tell you how many agents in our company and other companies that they don't have a little private place to work. Actually, when I first moved here, I framed out a square 6x6 office with a door, and my family knew that the only reason why you're going to come knocking on that door is if the house is on fire or you're bleeding all over the place, because if that door's closed, I am busy working. So a private place to work with limited no distraction is super important. Having the updated technology, that is super important as well. You always want to keep the cutting edge because it really gives the benefits to your clients that you have the top edge technology, especially today with things going virtual. You don't need to do walkthroughs or showings or meetings with the wheels spinning all the time, and you can't upload. And I hope on the other end you guys are seeing this normally, because I just did buy a new laptop. So hopefully I'm not contradicting myself here, but updated technology is super important. I'm not saying as soon as a new one comes out, but stay within a year or two. I've met people that are using the same laptop for 8 to 10 years. Hey, if it works and it's not slow, okay, more power to you, but keep updated with that. Another thing that's essential is especially when you're first starting out or you don't have a pipeline, is to have the ability to take leads all the time. And when I say no exceptions, I don't want you to think that I'm not going to my family dinners and I'm not going to church and I'm not doing things. When I say no exceptions, is I make time during the day to take new leads no matter what. Even if I was to take in the lead, have a quick conversation, and then put them into the database, I get done doing what I'm doing, I go back to them, I give them another call. But the ability, if you need to build your pipeline, you have to be open. You have to be open 24/7 if you want to really grow your business. A super, super, super important thing is I always respond back. If I get a text message or an email, lightning speed, as soon as I get it. This is another reason why technology is super important too, because if you have a slower phone, a flip phone or something like that, that really impedes your ability to respond back to people. And I always answer my phone. I've taken care of all my bill collectors, so now I'm not scared to answer every call. So this is super important for me. Another thing, I am always ready to meet a lead. A conversation can quickly get into getting in the car and going to meet somebody. Everyone here as realtors, you guys probably know that you don't have to get in the car right away and meet people. I know sometimes people call me and they want to see a house, and then I pray when I open it up, oh, please have somebody living in it so I can go tomorrow. But if it is vacant, I usually try to do same day showings, but always be ready to meet a lead if need be. And also, this doesn't pertain to the prospect pool. This pertains more to the leads in your IMS. I've read a lot of studies. I've watched a lot of videos on leaving voicemails, and there's two sides to that. I leave a lot of voicemails for the leads in my IMS, because not only are they getting text messages, emails, and phone calls from me, but they're also able to hear my voice on the phone. I can't tell you, there's countless times that I finally got somebody on the phone, and one of the first things they said to me is, yes, I've been getting your voicemails. So to me, it's like a psychological factor that they get to hear me a little bit too. And I just wanted to throw this one in here. Never judge a lead. Everybody is different. They sound different on the phone. I remember when I first started in real estate, I was nervous meeting people, and then I look in my rearview mirror, and then when I hop out of the car, I realized that they look like very nice people, and there's nothing to be afraid of. Okay, so this section here, and I promise we're about halfway through, this section here is about making phone calls, okay? Making phone calls to me is the biggest part of my business. It's making phone calls, sending text messages, and then sending emails. That's the succession of things to me. And then making phone calls, I use browser calls. We all have the access in the IMS to put your browser calls on and sit in front of your computer. You could do it one or two ways. You could plug in your headset and then talk into your computer, or you could not have a headset and just talk directly into the computer using the microphone on your computer. 90% of my calls are there. I mean, unless someone calls me, I don't have the option to get on my computer. But when you're working the leads, try to use your browser calls. And the other reason why I use browser calls, which I kind of want to introduce this to you guys, really connecting with an accountability partner. Now, my accountability partner was 1,020 miles away, and that was actually Jeff Kern. When I first started in the business, I knew that he's been in real estate for a while, and when you're new in real estate, you really don't know what to say on the phone. And you learned what to say on the phone by making the phone calls and having the interaction with people. But if you call just a quick snapshot on how to have an accountability partner, not only would I be glad to show you how to do that later, but if you call your accountability partner on the phone and they have a headset, and then when you set that up, you both open your laptops and use your browser calls where it actually speaks out loud, and then you can hear your accountability partner's conversation, and then they can hear your conversation. Works very well. We bounce things off each other. It was very, very handy to me to hear somebody else talk on the phone. Just real quick, to having an accountability partner, making calls with someone else provides an abundance of insight on how to handle rejection, keep the conversation going, and being more effective converting a conversation. And I do want to share with you guys that being a new agent, and making calls in front of another agent, it's somewhat intimidating. It really is, because like I was judging myself like, oh, Jeff's going to think that, I'm not saying the right things and stuff. But I quickly noticed as I just tried and listened to him on a couple calls, because I mean, he was like a rubber ball. Every time someone had an objection or they said something, he would say something appropriate that would still keep it on track, to keep the conversation going. But we all know that some conversations you just can't keep the fire going, which is cool. But it did give me the courage to try to duplicate what he was saying, how he was saying it, and also vice versa. Even though I was a new agent, I still worked with people. I still have conversations with people. So he picked up a few things from me as well. So more an accountability partner. If you guys want more information, I'll be glad to actually do maybe 1 or 2, 3 calls with you just to show you how it works, but I'd be open to that. A few IMS details I'm going to share with you guys that just keep things going. This isn't going to be a training session. I'm just sharing the things that I did to keep my leads going and alive. I always try to get the lead's name. There's a lot of leads that, not so much anymore, but I do have leads that come in with no name. If you can't get them on the phone, check out their email, because their email really gives up who their name is. I always try to get that name in there, and because sometimes they put their name in there, it's not capitalized, and the automatic emails send emails with their name, and if it's not capitalized, I just try to keep it clean. But this was an important to get the lead's name and get it looking correctly. Another thing that I did is I always have a custom templates, text templates and email templates. That's for my hot list, for my update requested, and also after I talk to somebody. I'm working. I've actually put a couple in there for replies. When you get, oh no, I'm all good. I appreciate it. Like just quick replies. But this is very handy to have. And really coupled with all that, I try to always set a future reminder. It comes in very handy for new leads that come in, especially if you mark this little box that says notify me at the time of the reminder. That works fantastic to actually stay in front of people, because anywhere between, I would say, the 2nd to the 8th call attempt, your chances are pretty good that you're going to get them on the phone. And if they're not interested, perfect. Just, you can put them on a later plan, or if they want to be removed, get them out of there and move forward. Creating custom gateways. I just want to share this real quick. Whenever a new lead comes in, I always try to customize their gateway campaign name to be detailed on what they have told me. If they say that they really like the community of Palm Springs, I'll set a gateway up saying homes in Palm Springs for first and last name from my first and last name. The first and last name to me is very important because they see your name every time that they get an email. And then when they mention something to you or describe something in the email that they're looking for, you put that in the campaign title. That shows them that you're listening to what they were saying. So if they want homes with pools only, you make the campaign name Pool Homes in Central Florida for Danae from Charlie Marchese. I can't tell you how far that has gone for me, where after I put that email out, they replied to the email saying, hey, Charlie, love the homes that you've been sending versus the ones, because I've seen campaigns that people have done, it says homes. That's not a good subject title, homes. You can get your name out there a little more and put their name in there. If you have the last name, put their last name too, because their name and our name together, it's, to me, psychologically, it puts us together a little bit. So that's that. And then last but not least on this part, remove any leads that show no interest. It's very easy to get too many leads in your database that are just getting in the way. If they unsubscribe, I usually get them out. If, this was just the other day, I took in the lead. She answered the phone. She said I had the wrong number. And then 5 minutes later, I look in and she unsubscribed. So you can bet your butt that was Linda on the phone. But this lead you really just don't want to have into your database. And real quick, some things that I've learned by making mistakes. I covered this a little bit before. Have a good conversation before you're so eager to get in the car. I met people that couldn't buy candy bars that day. But in a lot of essence, if you can't do something today, I'm going to definitely try to get you on a path to do something in the future, whether that be a credit repair program, whatever that might be. So I still hold high meeting people in person. But in my first year, I've wasted a lot of miles on my car. It actually cost me a set of tires, but that's okay. Stay in your lane. There's definitely a lot of parts in real estate that aren't real estate related, but they do have a direct impact on your business, whether it be, a trade, the title company, the lender. Whenever a question comes to you by your client that it's not in your wheelhouse, because in the beginning I would share things that I would know, and sometimes it's not exactly right. I would rather, it's almost the same if you get them in touch with the person that is in that wheelhouse to talk to them, because then again, if they're wrong, then they're not blaming you personally. So stay in your lane when it comes to doing things. It's not over till it closes. I'm sure a lot of us know this. I remember how excited I'd come barging in the room. My wife like, I just got a showing. I got 2 showings. But little did I know that was just the start of the roller coaster. I get pretty excited when I get the email saying, congratulations, your file is closed. I'm happy along the way, but I don't count my pennies until I get that email. Always follow up when you say you will. I've actually lost a couple clients here. Not that I don't follow up when I say I will, but sometimes I do get busy and I saw my reminder and I didn't follow up. So I say I follow up 99.8% of the time, but there's times that I'm just too busy. I couldn't follow up, and I've lost clients to there, where I call them back and be like, oh no, I called somebody else. You weren't available, or you never called me back. So try to do that as much as possible. When you're in a transaction, follow the entire transaction, even though you're only on one side. If you're just a buyer's agent, there's the seller's agent, there's a title company, there's the lender, there's the inspector, there's the appraisal, the appraiser. There's so many moving parts. You don't have to be full hands on all that, but you definitely want to keep visibility, a bird's eye view on all that. Because when I was new and I was just a buyer's agent, I would go through the process, like, hope everyone's getting everything done, and got smacked around a lot and lost some deals because of, pardon me, the stupidity of others, but that happens. And then last but not least on this one, keep in touch with your past clients, which I didn't do my first year or two. I was just concentrating on new, more. But keeping in touch with past clients and getting referrals, the only way I can explain it is that's warm apple pie commissions. That's really the best thing for me. As far as lead processing and generating. So this is the tail end of it, and I really wanted to show where the proof of the pudding that the IMS is highly effective when it's used as intended. And I was actually digging back into my archives, and I wanted to share a few slides just to show firsthand, not pictures and illustrations and stuff, but my personal my personal deals and successes when I was using the IMSs. When I was using the IMS, excuse me. So on this first one here, I picked, I think I have through March through December of 2018. And I want you guys to take just keep mind of this while I'm going through this. And I'm gonna go a little slower through these. Now, all these pink ones here are the ones where I stayed home. And I think actually I don't have the prior month because I think I started it here. I said, you know what, this is too much going on. My planner wasn't even good enough. I hung a calendar in front of me to keep track of them. Because when you're home, now if you're in full-time real estate and you're home, I mean, I'm not, you know, knitting or working on my house, I'm making phone calls. So I want you to see as I go through the months, when I make the phone calls and I make the contacts with people, what actually happens. So we established that the pink is when I stayed home and the yellow are showings. The yellow are showings, okay? And then on the other half of that, the orange ones are closings, which they're scattered throughout. And then the green ones are offers. But let's just concentrate on the pink ones. So here's the pink. So on March, I'm not sure what happened before here. On March, you know, I was home making phone calls. I put an offer there. And then boom, I started going on some showings. And if you look closely, there's some pink ones that are over the yellow ones because they canceled showings. So there's many more showings that were scheduled. So as you're on the phone, and I'm on the phone here in April, I'm making calls when I'm home, and I'm kind of doing offers. That's probably investors. And as you go through the months, I want you to really see what happens from making those phone calls. Now, because those prior 2 months, I made all those phone calls, and I think I did a little with Jeff with the accountability partner thing too, which, you know, the more phone calls you make, the more business you make. So for May, if you look at all the showings that went on in May, and what usually happens is if I have a month that I'm out on showings, writing offers, going to closings and doing all that stuff, I usually, the next month is you can almost bet you're going to be home a little bit more because I wasn't making phone calls. I did try to squeeze in here a little bit, but I have to say when I have a lot of these showings, you know, I don't do a lot of phone calls because I'm working on these deals, or, you know. So, and then as you continue through, so May was pretty good with showings. And if you add all these up, it's hundreds of showings in 2018. So I was home. So then you're home on the phone, again, offers, showings. Well, I was trying to understand. I think this canceled. I wasn't home twice. But anyway, after being on the phone, look what happens in August after you make phone calls. Showing. And it's funny, there's a few names in here I'm still working with today. But it got me in the car to meet the people to make the deal. And then we go over to September and October, because if you saw in the previous month here, this month I was out on showing. So just like in the past months, because I wasn't making as many calls, September's the next month I make more calls. I actually had I had broker school then too, and somebody had to see a house on the last day of school there, so they went and did that too. So after making the calls, and you hop over here, then you get more showings, and last but not least, November and December of 2018, calls and showings. So I wanted everybody to see firsthand. This was my map of phone calls. Well, home is phone calls, and how many showings you actually get for phone calls. So it's no BS. If you make phone calls out of the IMS, you will get showings and you would do deals. So in summary, so far my 3-year growth, my first year in real estate ever, learned how to talk and walk and everything, I did 2.3. My second year, I did 2.8. My third year, which was last year, I did 4.5, and I just hit the 2 million mark so far this year, and it's the 4th month, and I was slated to do 5.5 up to 6 million this year. So it's growing month after month, and I want to let I really don't go too much in the prospect pool like I used to, because my IMS is so plentiful of people that I've been talking to and that I've been out on showings with. The IMS alone keeps me busy as long as you keep up on your hot list. So, I mean, the math is really easy. You make phone calls, you make money. Call as many leads as possible if you want to be successful using the IMS. My plans for the 4th year, things are changing a little bit. I'm going to continue to work my IMS database. I'm going to focus more on digital and virtual communication. Definitely got to up my game here. And I'm going to reach out to past clients a few times this year because, like I said, that's very warm apple pie there, and you just got to reach out. I'm going to continue to take lead opportunities. I always have my leads on. I always keep an eye on that. I'm going to schedule time to make calls from the prospect pool as well because I think things are changing as far as getting in the car. People are going to not want to do that so much, so I'm going to have to plant more seeds. And then last but not least here is to build a strong marketing plan for all listings. I actually have a listing or two that are on the market right now, and both of them are like, well, what are you doing above and beyond pictures in a description? And I'm kind of looking at myself and being like, well, that's all I did in the past, and it worked just fine. So I definitely have to up my game there. So pretty much that's pretty much a snapshot of moving to a state that you have no idea about. You don't have any friends, you don't know anybody, town names or nothing, and using the IMS. I really hope that this helps everybody that maybe you don't have the confidence in the IMS or you're not using the IMS. But I found great success in it, and I feel fortunate that I actually have the IMS database to run my business. I think it's absolutely fabulous, and it's amazing that the partners continue to grow and evolve this, and continue to make improvements. It's really a great thing. I really appreciate everyone tuning in, and if you guys want to throw some questions at me about any of this, or you want to do that off to the side, I'd be glad to do that as well.